today, as we have said, we celebrate this feast called Corpus Christi. Corpore et sanguine Christi. For those of you who perhaps are a certain age, as I am, may remember Corpus Christi of years ago when it was celebrated by the priest in procession, bringing the Eucharist around the parish to various neighborhoods and so on, asking the Lord's blessing in this special way. But today is a day on which we pay special homage to the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist. In a way, we repeat what we did on Holy Thursday. We repeat that Last Supper gathering in the upper room. And it reminds us that on the night before he died, Jesus left his body and blood as spiritual food, we believe, to be received by every generation down through time, even to our own day. And it is the Eucharist and our reception of the Eucharist, which of course is the hallmark, the centrality of our Catholic faith. In the Protestant denominations, Presbyterians, Methodists, and so on, their worship centers around the word of the Lord being explained by the minister. But every time we as Catholics gather, we celebrate the Eucharist, God being with us. And it is that God's presence amongst us that we celebrate today. And so the Church is asking us today to reflect in a special way on God's gifts. And we are reminded to renew our faith and to deepen our appreciation of the presence of Christ in the Eucharist. But we know that by the very fact that we celebrate the Eucharist so frequently, we may, over time, perhaps not give it the importance that we should. We all know what a habit is. And a habit winds up being something that we do without even thinking about it. And so, we say today, let us make sure that reception of the Eucharist is not a habit, but is something that we take most seriously and realize the gift which God has given us. For we believe that Christ is the living bread sent down from heaven as food to satisfy our deepest spiritual hunger. We proclaim through the Eucharist that Christ did die for our sins so that we might have life and salvation one day. As we journey through life, we know that we desire many things. And psychologists and all tell us that deep down, all men desire to find a deeper meaning to life. And in our struggle to find a purpose in life, to answer the question of why we do what we do in life and where we are ultimately going, the Eucharist helps us and invites us to follow in the footsteps of the Lord as we celebrate the Eucharist. And so we set out on the road which he traveled. In our lives, when we do our utmost to imitate his life of caring and sharing, we're brought gradually to see the importance of placing the common good of our fellow man before that other person we think is so important, that me, myself, and I person that we look so frequently at in the mirror. The Church is telling us, God is telling us, that we need to be thinking about the other and less of ourselves. We're also reminded today that sharing in the Eucharist should mean much more to us than just going to Mass to receive nourishment for our own private spiritual life. For the Church is social. We're told that we must rise with the Eucharist and to see that as the Eucharist sends us to embrace all God's people. And we must rise in our own life above the divisions and injustices of the society around us, which keeps so much of mankind apart and prevents us from forming closer on within our families, our schools, and our workplaces. The Eucharist says, open your heart, open your home, accept all people as God's children. And as we live our daily lives, we're also told that we must forgive. We must overlook weaknesses. We must understand the failure of friends, especially when they hurt us, as they do sometimes. We're told to live as brothers and sisters of the Lord. And we are again reminded that there's no way that we can offer ourselves to God in the Eucharist if we don't try to love the neighbor who has failed us in one way or another. If God's love is to be manifested in the world through our life and example, we have to be living examples of Christ in the ways that we live and work and interact with one another. So therefore we're told, go out, touch the lives of others, be the healing presence, the helping hand, the voice of sympathy and encouragement when needed by others. I like to remind people that I think that one of the more important parts of the Mass that we celebrate is the symbolism given at the very end of Mass when I, as the celebrant, tell you Mass is ended, and that now we are to go out to bring the grace that we have received here this day in the Eucharist, which we will soon participate in, and to bring that grace to all of our relationships in the weeks to come. We come, we hear the word of the Lord, we are refreshed and renewed by the Eucharist that we receive, and then we go out because we are Christ's disciples today and bring the Lord to others. That is the grace of the Eucharist. We are the Lord's disciples today in 2012 in this part of God's vineyard. Let us prepare then, receive the Lord, be strengthened by Him, and to bring Him to the troubled world around us.